everybody. I'm your host, Ami Kauffman, and this is your weekly Road to the White House 2016, where we take a look at the most important and at times most bizarre developments in the race to be President of the United States. The mudslinging is in full swing ahead of the upcoming Iowa caucuses and especially ahead of tonight's Republican debate. We'll talk about that and answer some of these questions. Can Hillary Clinton dance? Do you, the viewer, know what the Overton window is? And why are the Koch brothers so upset? All this and more, but first, let's get to our top 5 countdown. Let's get this show on the road and check out just a few of the impressive feats those wacky candidates managed to rack up this week. In at number 5, we have Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton, who stopped by the Ellen DeGeneres show this week, talked politics, talked Kim Kardashian, and even did some moves.
You can fix your hair like this, and then you can dab. And then, Mrs. President, you can sign a bill, and then you dab. That's it.
I like that.
Dab. That's all. All you got to remember is just sign something and be like, dab. That's it.
Okay, we got it.
Dab. That's it. Yep.
She's got it. She's got it. Does she got it? No, you don't got it, Hillary. This is someone that's got it.
All right, you got a little
You didn't beat him in the primaries, and you sure ain't gonna beat him at dancing. In at number 4, we've got a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, Ben Cohen, the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, revealing to the world there might soon be a Bernie Sanders flavor.
You whack that big chocolate disc into a bunch of little pieces and you mix it around, and there you have it, Bernie's yearning.
Bernie's yearning. Can I have that with a cherry on top? Yum. In at number 3, we have Hillary Clinton again, finally taking off the gloves. Bernie Sanders is closing the gap with her in Iowa, so Clinton is stepping up her attacks, particularly when it comes to the Obama gun control steps, which have become the new battleground for the Democratic nominees. Here's what she said on Sanders' voting record on Face the Nation.
It's the only industry in our country where we have given that kind of carte blanche to do whatever you want to do with no fear of legal consequences. You know, President Obama and I and Senator Sanders were all in the Senate at the same time. 2 of us voted against what the NRA says was the most important piece of legislation in 20 years for the gun lobby. Senator Sanders voted with them and through this morning has been unwilling to join the president and me in saying that this should be repealed. That has to be the effort that we all are behind. And, you know, he often says, well, look, I'm from Vermont, and, you know, that's different. It's not like being in New York City. Well, in fact, the other senator from Vermont, Senator Leahy, voted with President Obama and myself. So I think that the excuses and efforts by Senator Sanders to avoid responsibility for this vote, which the NRA hailed as the most important in 20 years, points up a clear difference, and is a difference that Democratic voters in our primary can take into account.
To be honest, Clinton's critique of Sanders seems to be spot on. Let's face it. There's a reason why Sanders is still taking this position. While Clinton is dominating the national polls, in Iowa and New Hampshire, there's basically a statistical tie. And that's why Sanders is tempted to defend a position that rural white voters in those states will surely be supportive of. At number 2, we've got the Donald who came over to Jimmy Fallon and The Tonight Show, where Fallon proceeded to conduct a mock job interview for the Republican frontrunner.
I know you know a lot about hiring the right people for the position. And so I thought...
This sounds like trouble.
No, yeah, this is a good setup. I was wondering if maybe we should do a mock job interview with you. I mean, you're running for the biggest job in the world, really, the most important job.
Good. Let's go. Let's go.
Can I call you Donald?
You certainly can.
How did you hear about the position?
Well, a lot of people in this big country were screaming, what's going on? And I said, let's see if we can do something.
Yeah, perfect. Well, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm an extraordinarily handsome person. I have a beautiful head of hair.
I noticed that, yeah.
I was always a good student, and I always worked hard.
Yeah, you really did, yeah.
Well, they say it's all about first impressions, right? I think that Donald came off a little cocky for a first interview, but Jimmy might think otherwise. Well, we'll see if he gets the job. And at number 1, we don't have a candidate, but a man who usually supports one, Charles Koch. Charles and his brother David are some of the world's richest people. In an interview to the Financial Times, Charles recently complained that he isn't getting enough bang for his buck. That's pretty serious stuff coming from the most influential family in American politics, who are planning on spending just under $1 billion on this campaign. Money that is not always documented and is also known as dark money.
Do you think it's good for the political system that so much what's called dark money is flowing into the process now?
What I give isn't dark. Like what I give politically, that's all reported. It's either to PACs or to the candidates.
Ha! No dark money coming from the guys who run and support a massive network of foundations that go to great lengths to keep their donors anonymous. Anyway, maybe all of this is just an attempt to divert attention from a new book about the Koch brothers, aptly called Dark Money, claiming their father helped construct a major oil refinery in Nazi Germany that was personally approved by no other than Adolf Hitler. It's time for our focus story of the week. Over the past 2 weeks, we've witnessed a battle that I don't see ending anytime soon, the boxing match between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, once a bromance, now a bitter row. The former launched yet another birther attack. First it was against Obama a few years back, and now he's claiming Cruz may not be able to run for president legally since he was born in Canada.
In New Hampshire today, protesters getting all the way on stage just inches from Senator Ted Cruz.
It's just weird, you know? Why is everyone so excited about guns?
Sir, who are you?
They kill people.
Cruz supporters pulling the heckler away, but moments later, another one.
Son, thank you, but hey, this is not your stage. This is not your stage.
Cruz also fending off incoming fire from Donald Trump, who today circulated an op-ed from a top Harvard law professor who says there are real questions about whether Cruz is a natural-born citizen. Trump tweeting, such a serious problem for Ted and the GOP.
It is more than a little strange to see Donald relying on as authoritative a liberal left-wing judicial activist Harvard law professor who is a huge Hillary supporter.
Cruz, who's in a dead heat with Trump in Iowa, lags far behind him in New Hampshire.
Do you need New Hampshire to win the nomination? Do you need New Hampshire?
We are campaigning hard in New Hampshire. We're campaigning hard across the country. We don't view any one state as a must-win.
By the way, Rand Paul and Carly Fiorina have joined the Cruz birther bandwagon as well, probably trying to show that even though they might not be doing so well in the polls, hey, at least they were born in the USA. It ain't a show without our social media moment of the week. President Barack Obama gave his final State of the Union address on Tuesday, and of course, the GOP candidates were quick to take to Twitter and live tweet the speech. Frontrunner Donald Trump, not holding back as usual, said that the State of the Union speech is really boring, slow, lethargic, and very hard to watch. Jeb Bush, still in single digits in every poll, tweeted, "It appears Obama is still under the impression ISIS is the junior varsity team. Next president must understand the enemy and the threat." After seeing a somewhat distressed Paul Ryan sitting behind the president, Governor Mike Huckabee tweeted, "Looks like Speaker Ryan would rather chaperone a Six Flags field trip with El Chapo than listen to more of this speech." But for me, the Twitter highlight of the night was the reaction of extreme right-wing pundit Ann Coulter to the GOP rebuttal speech by Governor of South Carolina Nikki Haley, who was critical of Donald Trump. Coulter tweeted, "Trump should deport Nikki Haley." As you can see, Coulter is pretty sure, that Donald's already in the White House. Let's get ready to rumble. It is poll time. I am very happy to be joined in studio by public opinion analyst and campaign strategist Stephen Miller of 202 Strategies. Thanks for coming on the show, Stephen.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about polls, and let's talk about the national polls. Let's start with the Democrats first. Hillary still has a pretty massive lead, right?
Hillary still's a lead. It's tightening, and it's going to continue to tighten as we approach the first primary states.
Great. And let's talk about the Republicans, and I think Trump also still has a massive lead over number 2 Cruz in the national polls as well, right?
But again, Cruz Cruz coming in as this race comes to the 8-month, 10-month, that stretch of that first period. As we enter these primary races, Cruz is coming in as a clear number 2. This is not what we saw 6 months ago.
Right. And now let's talk about, when we delve into the states, but particularly Iowa, February caucuses coming up on February 1st, Iowa caucuses. And it looks like Ted Cruz actually has a slight lead there.
Yeah, we're just over 2 weeks away. It is more important for your viewers to look at those state polls rather than the national polls because it's a state-by-state race. And Ted Cruz is coming out in front, and he is going to go into Iowa as the front runner.
Yeah, and I understand he's really organized on the ground in Iowa very well, from what I've heard,
strong operation, as compared to Trump, which has very much been a media-based campaign.
Right. And what's happening with the Dems in Iowa? The latest poll, Sanders took the lead over Clinton, right?
Yeah, we have Sanders taking the lead. Clinton campaign has said this is always going to be a tight race. In December, Bernie Sanders put 30% more TV ads on the air.
Wow.
We've also had a long time since the last Dem debate. He's used that vacuum to come in and take the lead.
So what do you think could happen in the next few weeks that could kind of change these numbers?
Well, certainly, Hillary Clinton has seen a bump in the polls after the debates. We've got a debate in about a week. That's going to be helpful for her. And the ad blitz that's going to come, and the attacks, and all those surrogates, President Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, the many endorsements that she's gotten.
Gabby Giffords, by the way, who just gave her endorsement.
We've seen the gun laws issue as a real wedge issue between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and that's going to continue.
And what about what's going on in New Hampshire, by the way? We're seeing numbers where Bernie Sanders is leading
again,
well,
New Hampshire, and Sanders has had a lead for a little bit now, and in the polls show it's going to be a very tight race. And again, Sanders over Clinton in the current polls.
Okay, look, I want to ask you a little, let's focus lastly on Sanders. Correct me if I'm wrong here when I say that a man cannot win the Democratic nomination without taking the black and Hispanic vote. And I think that we see that, he might take Iowa, he might take New Hampshire, but when we look at South Carolina, a racially diverse state, the numbers are still massively in favor of
Sure, this is something we've seen throughout. The Democratic coalition certainly includes very strong support amongst the African American community and very strong support amongst the Hispanic community.
Right.
If you can't lead those two groups, you cannot lead the Democratic base. And South Carolina is the first primary that's going to be a diverse primary with a large percentage of African American voters. And Clinton's got it through the waters. Recent polling, 67, 68% Clinton.
And we don't see any trend changing when it comes to those minorities, when it comes to Sanders in any of the states, right? Not only South Carolina, but also Nevada.
And throughout the South, you're going to see that diversity play a big role in the difference between the Iowa and New Hampshire versus the rest of the states.
All right, Stephen Miller, thanks a lot for coming in on the show.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
It's time for the Kauffman Critique. Today I want to talk to you about the shifting of the Overton window. No, this isn't some kind of energy-saving device for your new home. The Overton window refers to the window of discourse, a range of ideas that the public will accept. And in this campaign, it is changing dramatically, mostly due to Donald Trump. As Political's Michael Grunwald points out, Trumpism and the media attention it receives means we pay even less attention to what other candidates are saying. For example, did you know that Carly Fiorina believes minimum wage is unconstitutional? That Mike Huckabee plans to defy Supreme Court rulings he deems incompatible with God's law? That Rick Santorum thinks Islam is not protected by the First Amendment? That Ted Cruz called for putting the United States back on the gold standard? All these ideas were put forward in GOP debates and remained unchallenged. But the GOP is not ashamed of these ideas at all. As opposed to the Democrats who are hiding their debates at strange viewing hours during the weekends, the Republicans are wearing their views on their sleeves for all to see, no matter how far that Overton window shifts. So remember that tonight when you watch the Republican debate. Keep an eye out for all those wild ideas that are suddenly the norm. That's it for this week. Next week promises to be a whopper with more crazy stuff from those crazy candidates. Who will be crowned the victor of tonight's GOP debate? Will Ted Cruz get Donald Trump off his back? And will this be the last time I don't mention Ben Carson in the show even once? Join us next time when we'll run with them down that road to the White House 2016. Bye-bye.